Just 4 years ago, we were all put through a pandemic-level event because of the coronavirus, and it changed everything. This pandemic permanently changed the way we went about our daily lives for so long that we didn't even know what was in store for the coming years. As changes continued, we started to learn things about how we operated before the pandemic, and we also learned how we should adapt our current systems to be better suited should something like this ever happen again. Questions lingered in the minds of everyone across the world for the next few years. Let's face it, obviously, we were not ready for this. People around the world were faced with a lockdown, forced to stay in their homes to prevent the spread. Businesses of all kinds shut down and were only open based on importance. And the strain that the rapid rise in cases put on the medical industry was huge. And since we here at Sterilizer Autoclave Solutions have our fingers on the pulse of the sterilization industry, we saw it all happen in real time. Medical facilities being filled to the brim trying to treat as many cases as they could, product shortages that extended to important things like personal protection equipment, corners being cut constantly over basic hygiene practices that would normally never be considered just to save time and get back in the action. We saw it all, and we also saw how these various factors continue to shape the post-COVID world for better and for worse. The lessons that the pandemic taught us may vary from place to place, even person to person. But with SAS, we've gathered a few things that it definitely taught us. It made us think of the questions we should be asking ourselves and others. For example, what can we do to keep our customers safe? We used to prioritize infection control standards, but do we still do that post-pandemic? Are you still prioritizing it? What are you doing to ensure you're keeping yourself safe? With all of these thoughts and questions in mind, we wanted to use this video and take a look at a few things that we learned through the events of the pandemic moving forward, the lessons we've learned, and the ways we're ensuring that we're always covered. Here are some of the more obvious things that the pandemic taught us. Licking used toilet seats makes you more susceptible to the virus, and licking ice cream before putting it back on the shelf is a Class 3 felony in the state of Virginia.
Whose idea was this?
The first thing we noticed is that the pandemic contributed to disinfection habits that were actually harmful in the long run. What do we mean by that? Well, we made a short not too long ago about how there was a new rise in superbugs. You know, the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Superbugs are created when somebody becomes overexposed to things like cleaning products or disinfectants. The bacteria that survive the overuse of the substance adapt and become more and more resistant to the things we use to get rid of them. And then in turn, when you get sick, they're that much harder to get rid of. But the article attributed the new wave of superbugs to COVID disinfection practices, citing that it was caused by habits picked up during the pandemic, like the need to disinfect everything all the time. But that's nobody's fault. Everything happened so fast that panic set in, and if the one thing that comes to mind is to scrub the place down, that's probably what you're going to do. The second thing we noticed is that research being put into reusable personal protection equipment after the mass shortages were in place. For this example, we'll turn to our short video we made discussing research on a new reusable silicone variant of a regular N95 respirator. This mask was made to be put into an autoclave sterilizer and reused a certain number of times to reduce the use of disposable equipment during an event like the pandemic's mass shortage on masks. They aim to cut material use as well, having only the filters be disposed of as opposed to the entire mask, leaving more material on hand for later production. As a company in the business of infection control, this mask is a game changer. It would be very beneficial in the long run to have a mask that's reusable, all while significantly cutting costs. But we also noticed that during the pandemic, one thing that may have gotten pushed to the side due to many constraints is the context of medical masks. Every mask, like gloves, are rated for different environments due to their build quality. Take Halyard, for example, and their level 1 and level 3 masks. Their masks allow for proper decision-making, and with their level 1 mask, you're rated for general use operations, day-to-day tasks around your medical practice that don't require the largest layer of protection. But then if you need more protection, you can take their level 3 masks that are rated for the highest level of fluid protection. Finding the proper mask for your specific situation can help alleviate shortages, as using the right mask preserves each level of protection for that specific situation. The last main thing we noticed is that hand hygiene is being put on the back burner since the pandemic, and there isn't nearly as much of it before. There were a few factors that the pandemic attributed to, like lack of resources, time management to get to patients quicker, and so on. But the main symptoms seemed to stem from the lax enforcement of hand hygiene once the pandemic stage came to a head and things returned to a new norm. So the various worldwide health organizations are constantly stressing its importance and even working on new protocols to insert into various practices that are lacking in it by putting steps in place to promote better hand hygiene. And this is hardly the only step being taken, as there are movements worldwide to initiate a new wave of hand hygiene to better prevent infections and future disease all around the world. So what did we learn? Well, we learned about moderation when using cleaning products because too much can be bad for you in the long run. Also, the context of a product can help avert shortages in the future. And the importance of hand hygiene should never be understated, especially after a pandemic-level event. If you want to read up any more on infection control, you can find our YouTube playlist and news tab links all in the description below. And if you have any questions about this or anything else, give us a call at 704-966-1650, option 3 for our free tech support line. For more videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe.